My wife kept getting mysterious flower deliveries with notes saying, "Thinking of you." When I finally followed the delivery guy, I discovered the sender wasn't who I thought. It was someone much closer to home. I'm Daniel, 35 years old, male, and I swear, I'm not the paranoid type. But the flowers. God, the flowers started eating away at me. It began so small it almost felt stupid to care. A delivery once a month, roses, lilies, sometimes sunflowers, with a little card tucked inside, "Thinking of you." No signature, no clue, just those words. My wife, Emily, 32, would smile softly, set them in a vase, and act like it was nothing. "Secret admirer at work, probably just some joke," she'd say, brushing it off with this weird little laugh that didn't quite reach her eyes. But it wasn't funny to me. I know Emily. We've been married 7 years. She loves small gestures, hates waste, and would never just shrug off expensive bouquets if she truly didn't know who sent them. By the third month, it had become routine. Same florist truck, same driver. Always when I wasn't home, except once, I caught the guy on our porch handing them over. "Busy lady's got an admirer, huh?" he said, grinning like he knew something I didn't. Emily laughed too loudly, grabbed the bouquet, and practically shoved me back inside before I could ask questions. That laugh stuck with me. Forced. Nervous. I started to spiral. I'll admit it. I checked her phone when she was in the shower. Nothing. I skimmed her emails on the laptop. Again, nothing. No flirty messages, no mysterious numbers. But the flowers kept coming. Every time she'd place them on our dining table. And every time I'd stare at them like they were evidence in a crime scene. By the sixth delivery, I couldn't take it anymore. I told her I was leaving early for work one Friday, but I parked around the block and waited. My heart was hammering so loud I swore people walking past could hear it. Right on schedule, the florist truck pulled up. Same guy hopped out with another perfect bouquet. I slipped out of my car and followed him, quiet as I could. I expected him to drive across town, maybe to some office, maybe to some mystery man. But he didn't. He turned onto a street I knew too well. My stomach dropped. He wasn't heading away from me. He was circling back toward me, toward my neighborhood, toward... That's when I realized. The sender wasn't some stranger, wasn't some fling. It was someone much, much closer to home. And the second that truth clicked into place, I swear I could feel my marriage cracking right under my feet. When I say my stomach dropped, I mean it felt like someone reached inside me and ripped everything out. Because the delivery guy didn't take that bouquet across town to some anonymous address. He turned into my street, rolled a little further down, and parked right in front of my brother's house. Yeah, my brother, Mark. Mark, 38, male, lives just 6 houses down from us. Same cul-de-sac, same little row of lawns where all the kids ride bikes on summer evenings. He's divorced, no kids, works construction. He's the guy who's always bumming beers out of my fridge during football season and telling the same damn story about his glory days on the high school team. And now, apparently, he's the guy sending my wife flowers. I couldn't even move for a second. Just stood there, watching the florist hand over another bouquet at Mark's front door. Mark wasn't home, but he'd left a little envelope taped to his door with cash for the driver. I saw the guy tuck it away, leave the flowers on the porch, and drive off like nothing unusual had just happened. My head was spinning. Why the hell would Mark be sending Emily flowers? The thought that they were sleeping together stabbed me right in the gut. But then another possibility hit me. Maybe he was trying to mess with me. Mark's always been the type to push buttons. Maybe this was some twisted joke? But no, that didn't fit. Emily knew who was sending them. Her laugh, the way she deflected, the way she never asked me if I had any idea. She wasn't confused. She was hiding. I walked home like a zombie, hands shaking so hard I could barely get my keys in the door. Emily was in the kitchen, cutting vegetables like it was just another Friday. The same vase of flowers from last week was still sitting on the table, drooping, petals scattered like confetti across the wood. I just stood there, staring at her back, hearing the knife hit the cutting board in this steady rhythm. My chest was on fire, but my voice came out quiet. "Why's Mark sending you flowers?" The knife froze mid-slice. She didn't turn around, didn't say a word. The silence in that kitchen was deafening. Finally, she put the knife down, leaned on the counter with both hands, and let out this shaky little laugh. Daniel, don't start. Don't start. Like I was the one stirring up drama. Like I was the crazy one for following the delivery guy and putting the pieces together. My vision tunneled. I wanted to grab the vase and smash it against the wall, wanted to scream until the whole damn neighborhood heard. But I didn't. I just stood there, because deep down, I already knew the answer. Emily turned, finally, and I'll never forget her face. Not guilt, not fear. Just this tired, almost resigned look, like she'd been waiting for me to catch up. Daniel, she said softly, it's not what you think. Except her voice cracked, and I knew it was exactly what I thought. Don't forget to subscribe. I don't think I've ever hated silence as much as I did in that moment. Emily just stood there, her hands gripping the counter like it was the only thing keeping her upright. I could hear the hum of the fridge, the tick of the kitchen clock, and the pounding of my own pulse in my ears. Not what I think, I finally said, my voice shaking. Then explain it. Why the hell is my brother sending you flowers every week? Her eyes flicked up at me, wet but steady. Because Mark cares about me, Daniel. That word, cares, lit me up like gasoline. Cares about you? He's my brother. He's supposed to care about us, not sneak behind my back like some creep. Emily's face twisted, like she was torn between crying and lashing out. It didn't start like this, okay? I didn't ask for it. He started dropping them off after your surgery last year. He said it was just to cheer me up, since I was so stressed taking care of you. I froze. Last year, I had been laid up for 3 months after tearing my ACL. Mark had come around more often back then, helping with little repairs, hanging out on the porch with Emily while I was stuck inside. Something in me cracked wide open. Every moment from that summer came rushing back. Mark sitting too close on our couch, Mark laughing a little too hard at Emily's jokes, Mark clapping me on the shoulder with that smug grin of his. You should have told me, I said, my throat tight. Emily looked away. I thought it would stop. I thought ignoring it was the easiest way, but he kept… And She stopped herself, but the damage was done. That pause told me everything. You what? I snapped. You encouraged him? You let him think this was okay? Her shoulders slumped like she'd been holding a weight for too long. Daniel, I was lonely. You were in pain all the time, angry, shut off. Mark was just… there. I didn't mean for it to go this far. The floor felt like it tilted under me. Lonely. That was her excuse? That my pain gave her permission to entertain my brother's obsession? I grabbed the vase from the table and hurled it into the sink. Glass shattered, water and petals spraying everywhere. Emily jumped, gasping. But I couldn't stop myself. All those nights I thought you were just tired. All those flowers you smiled at while lying to my face. You let me believe some stranger was chasing you when it was him? My own blood? Tears finally spilled down her cheeks and she whispered, I didn't want to lose you. That line nearly broke me in half. She'd already lost me. She just didn't know it yet. And the worst part? I wasn't even sure if I was angrier at Emily for betraying me or at Mark for targeting the one person he damn well knew I couldn't live without. I swear, I felt something dark settle in me that night. Because if Mark thought he could cross me and still walk around this neighborhood like nothing happened, he had another thing coming. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there staring at the ceiling while Emily curled up on the far edge of the bed, her back to me, like that would somehow make the truth less raw. My chest felt hollow, but my hands ached from clenching into fists. Because this wasn't just Emily betraying me. It was Mark, my older brother. The guy who taught me how to ride a bike, who drove me to my first job interview, who used to punch anyone who gave me crap in high school. And now? He was the one stabbing me in the ribs and smiling while he did it. The thing about Mark, he's always had this reckless, selfish streak. When his marriage fell apart, he spent months crashing on my couch, leaving beer cans and cigarette butts everywhere while Emily quietly picked up after him. When he borrowed money to get back on his feet, I never saw a dime of it again. And I let it slide every damn time because he was family. But flowers for my wife? That was war. The next afternoon I saw him out front, tinkering with his truck. Sunlight bouncing off the hood, a beer balanced on the bumper. Like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't been sneaking behind my back, poisoning my marriage bouquet by bouquet. I walked straight over, every step heavy. He looked up, grinning, like I was coming over to talk about the game. "Danny boy, what's up?" I didn't even answer. I slammed my hand down on the hood, hard enough that his beer tipped over and spilled. "Cut the crap, Mark. Why are you sending my wife flowers?" The grin slid off his face instantly. He glanced around, like the neighbors might be watching, then wiped his hands on a rag. "Calm down. Don't make a scene." "Don't you dare tell me to calm down," I snapped. "You've been sneaking around trying to worm your way into my marriage. I followed the damn florist truck, Mark. I know it's you." For a second, I saw something flicker across his face. Guilt, shame, maybe even fear. But then that smug smirk I knew too well spread across his lips. "You weren't keeping her happy, little brother. Somebody had to." That was it. That was the line that detonated me. I shoved him hard against the truck. The rag slipped from his hands and he shoved me back harder. "You think you're a saint?" he barked. "You think Emily doesn't complain to me about how cold you are? How you shut her out? I was there for her when you weren't." I swung at him before I even realized it. My fist connected with his jaw, and the sound of it cracked through the cul-de-sac. He stumbled back, clutching his face, his eyes wild. "You son of a bitch!" he roared, charging at me. We slammed into the side of his truck, the metal denting under the impact. Neighbors started peeking out windows, phones probably already out recording, but I didn't care. All I saw was red. We grappled, fists flying, curses spilling out until he finally shoved me off, spitting blood onto the pavement. "You don't deserve her, Daniel. She needs a man who actually makes her feel alive." That line cut deeper than any punch, and for the first time I saw it plain as day. Mark wasn't just messing around. He wanted her. He wanted Emily to choose him over me. I stood there shaking, chest heaving, blood on my knuckles, while he stared at me like we weren't brothers anymore. Like we were rivals. And in that moment, I swore I wasn't going to let him take her from me. Not without paying a price he'd never forget. Don't forget to subscribe. Update. Wanna, hey Reddit. Didn't expect to be back this soon, but holy hell. The last post blew up. I wasn't ready for the flood of DMs, the comments, the people calling me everything from a hero to an idiot. Some of y'all had me laughing harder than I have in days, like the dude who said I should have returned the flowers with the thorns still on. Savage. But yeah, quick update. It went down. Remember how I said Mark and I squared up in the cul-de-sac? Well, let's just say half the neighborhood got front row seats to the Daniel versus Mark show. Phones were definitely out. I haven't even checked Facebook yet, but I'm betting the footage is already floating around with some dumb title like Brothers Brawl Over Bouquet. And Emily? She was the one who finally pulled me off him. Ran down the street screaming my name like she was breaking up a bar fight. I wish I could tell you that seeing her cry stopped me cold, but the truth is, it barely registered. All I could see was Mark's smug, bloody face telling me I didn't deserve her. After the fight, he stood there grinning through split lips, yelling, "She'll come to me eventually," like some kind of deranged movie villain. I wanted to go back and finish it right there. But the cops rolled through before I could. Neighbors had called. We both got warnings for disturbing the peace, which, honestly, was generous considering the dent in his truck and the blood on the pavement. Cop pulled me aside and said, "Whatever this is, settle it before someone ends up in jail." Yeah, thanks for the wisdom, officer. Real Hallmark moment. Emily hasn't said much since. She's been quiet, moving around the house like a ghost, barely looking at me, which hurts worse than the bruise on my cheek. I don't know if she's scared, guilty, or secretly torn between us. But every time I see her glance at her phone, my chest burns. And here's the kicker. Reddit, you were right. This isn't about flowers anymore. This is about respect. About not letting my own brother invade my marriage like it's his personal playground. Some of you told me to leave. Some told me to torch his life. Some told me to sit down with Emily and talk it through. Honestly, I think I'm done talking. Because if Mark wants a war, he's about to get one. The house didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a waiting room before bad news. quiet, tense, full of air. I couldn't breathe right. Emily barely spoke to me after the fight with Mark. She cooked, cleaned, went to work, but her eyes never met mine for more than a second. It was like she'd packed her love into a box and shoved it somewhere I couldn't reach. And I couldn't stop thinking about what Mark had said. She'll come to me eventually. That smug, bloodied smile haunted me every time I shut my eyes. I started noticing little things that drove me insane. Emily lingering outside on the porch at night, phone in hand. Her shutting her laptop quickly when I walked into the room. The way she started wearing perfume to bed again, something she hadn't done in years. Every detail screamed that she wasn't just guilty. She was conflicted. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't just sit back and let Mark wedge himself deeper. I had to hit him where it hurt. Not with fists, but with something he couldn't laugh off. Mark's always had this ego the size of Texas. His whole identity is wrapped up in being the cool older brother, the charming guy, the life of the party. He thrives on attention. He needs people looking at him and thinking he's a winner. That's why his divorce shattered him. His ex exposed him for being lazy, selfish, and broke. Ever since then, he's been desperate to prove he's not the screw-up everyone whispers about. So I started planning. One night, while Emily slept with her back to me, I scrolled through old photos on my phone. Pictures from barbecues, birthdays, Christmas mornings. There was Mark, always with a beer in hand, always trying to make himself the star of the shot. And then, tucked in between, photos of Emily. Smiling, laughing, and in more than a few, Mark's eyes were on her instead of the camera. That's when the idea hit me. I gathered those photos plus the freshest bouquet he'd sent, and I started putting something together. Not just for me, not just for Emily, for everyone. For the whole damn family, the neighbors, the people who thought Mark was some kind of golden boy. If he wanted to humiliate me by creeping on my wife, then I'd turn the tables. I'd show the world exactly who Mark was. But I wasn't going to do it quietly. I was going to make sure the next time he tried to play the charming older brother, people would look at him and only see the man who tried to steal his brother's wife with flowers. Revenge wasn't just brewing anymore. It was ready. And soon, Mark was going to choke on the same roses he thought made him look romantic. I couldn't launch the plan without knowing where Emily stood. If I went nuclear and she still secretly leaned toward Mark, it would backfire. So before I made a single move, I forced the conversation. It was late, close to midnight. Emily sat at the dining table, scrolling on her phone with the wilted bouquet from last week still drooping in the vase. That image alone pissed me off. Dead flowers on the table like a monument to my humiliation. "Emily," I said, sitting across from her. My voice came out hoarse. "Do you want him?" She froze. Not a blink, not a breath. Just frozen like a rabbit caught in headlights. "I need to know," I pushed, my fists curling on the table. "Do you want Mark? Because if you do, I'll make this easy. I'll walk. You won't have to sneak around. You won't have to lie." Her eyes finally lifted, glistening with tears she didn't let fall. "Daniel, I don't want Mark. I never wanted him. Her voice cracked. "I wanted attention. I wanted to feel seen. And he gave it to me when you couldn't." That cut me deeper than if she'd just admitted to sleeping with him. I sat back, stunned, feeling my throat tighten. "I love you," she whispered, "but I hate myself for letting this happen." I didn't say anything. I just stared at those dying flowers between us, petals littering the table like confetti after a funeral. That was my answer. She might not want Mark, but she'd let him plant himself in our marriage. And that was enough. So the next day, I set my plan in motion. Mark had been invited to our cousin's cookout that weekend, a big family gathering, the kind where everyone showed up with kids and folding chairs and gossip that spread faster than the smoke off the grill. Perfect stage. Perfect audience. I put together a little gift for the occasion. A poster board, the kind kids use for school projects. On it, I arranged those photos. Emily laughing, me in the background, and Mark's eyes locked on her every damn time. Next to them, I taped one of his anonymous cards. "Thinking of you." And right in the center, I glued the withered remains of one of his bouquets. It looked like a shrine. Creepy. Obsessive. Exactly what it was. When Saturday rolled around, I loaded the board into my truck, covered with a tarp. My heart pounded the entire drive, but the rage kept me steady. This wasn't just revenge, it was justice. The family cookout buzzed like always. Kids running, uncles yelling about football, burgers sizzling. And then there was Mark, strutting around with a beer in his hand like he owned the place, soaking up attention. Emily stuck close to me, stiff and pale, but she didn't stop me. She knew. I waited until the food was served. Everyone gathered. Then I walked to the center, yanked the tarp off, and dropped the board onto the picnic table with a loud slap. The chatter died instantly. "Here's what my big brother's been up to," I said, my voice carrying across the yard. "While I've been breaking my back to hold a marriage together, Mark's been sending my wife flowers. Every damn week." Gasps, whispers. My aunt's hand flew to her mouth. The photos stared back at them. Mark's hungry eyes, the notes, the dead bouquet glued like a badge of shame. Mark's face went crimson. "You son of a—" He lunged at me, but two cousins grabbed him back. I just stood there, letting everyone look, letting the silence stretch until it crushed him. "Think about that the next time he tries to play Mr. Charming," I said flatly. "He's not just a screw-up, he's a snake." I walked away, leaving the board on the table like evidence in a trial. Mark's voice followed me, shrill and broken. "She wanted me! She wanted me first!" And just like that, every head turned from me to him, watching him unravel, watching the mask slip. I didn't have to say another word. Update 2. All right, Reddit. Back again sooner than I thought, because the fallout from the cookout has been nuclear. First off, holy crap, my last post blew up even bigger than the first one. Some of y'all straight up knighted me as petty king of the BBQ. Others said I went too far dragging family business into the open. And then there were the trolls telling me I should have set the poster board on fire while Eminem played in the background. Honestly, tempting? But here's what went down after I dropped that board. Remember how I said Mark lost it? That wasn't even half of it. Dude went full meltdown, screaming at me, screaming at Emily, screaming at our mom when she told him to sit down. He tried to flip the picnic table, but 3 cousins pinned him back before he could. Imagine a grown man, red-faced, spit-flying, yelling, "She loves me, you're just blind," in front of 30 relatives. It was like watching someone set themselves on fire in real time. And the best part? Nobody believed him. Not one person. My aunt whispered, "Oh my God, he's obsessed with her," loud enough that half the yard heard. My uncle shook his head and said, "Pathetic." Mark's ex-wife, who was there dropping their kid off, laughed so hard she had to cover her face. That laugh? That was justice. Emily cried the whole drive home, but not the guilty tears from before. More like relief. Like the weight of all those secrets had finally been ripped off her shoulders. She hasn't defended him once since. In fact, she whispered, "I'm sorry," more times than I could count. Doesn't fix everything, but it's a start. Now Mark's blowing up my phone. Missed calls, angry texts, one voicemail where he straight up sobbed and begged me to take the board down. Joke's on him. It's sitting in my garage like a trophy. My mom's calling too, saying I embarrassed the family. I told her Mark embarrassed himself. I just turned on the lights. And here's where Reddit comes in. A lot of you told me revenge wouldn't fix anything, that it'd just make the wound deeper. Maybe you're right. But when I saw Mark screaming like a toddler in front of everyone, stripped of that fake charm, I felt something I hadn't in months. Peace. For once, he couldn't twist the story. For once, everyone saw him for what he is. So yeah, maybe it was messy, maybe it was cruel, but it was mine. And I'll take my peace however I can get it. If there's one thing I should have known about Mark, it's that humiliation doesn't make him retreat, it makes him unhinged. For a few days after the cookout, things were eerily quiet. Emily and I actually had a couple dinners together without fighting. She was trying, asking me about my day, reaching for my hand, even cooking my favorite pasta like she used to. It wasn't perfect, but it felt like she was putting in effort instead of hiding. But then, Mark struck back. It started small. Late-night knocks on the door, no one there when I opened it. I knew it was him, He's pulled that crap before when we were kids. Then came the texts to Emily's phone. Blocked numbers, but obviously him. Thinking of you. Same words as the cards, same sick game. Emily showed me one of them, hands shaking. Daniel, he's not stopping. I wanted to storm down the street that second and tear his door off the hinges. But I didn't. Because that's what he wanted. He wanted another public blow-up. Another chance to paint himself as the victim. Then came the real escalation. One morning I walked out to go to work and found my truck keyed from headlight to taillight. Deep, jagged scratches like someone had carved rage into the paint. On the hood, in big, ugly letters, was one word, traitor. I knew instantly it was Mark. He'd lost the crowd at the cookout, so now he was lashing out like a cornered animal. I drove to his place, fists clenched so tight my knuckles went white. He was out on the porch, cigarette dangling, looking smug as hell. "Like the new look?" he called out, grinning. I nearly lost it. But I forced myself to stay on the curb, because if I crossed onto his lawn, I'd end up in cuffs. "You're done, Mark," I said through gritted teeth. "Keep this up, and the cops get involved." His grin slipped into something darker. "Go ahead, call them. You think anyone's going to believe you over me? You're the violent one. You're the hothead who started fights in the street. Everyone already saw you lose control once." That hit like a sucker punch because I knew he was right, at least partly. The neighborhood saw me swing first. He could spin that. So I walked away. Not because I was scared, but because I was saving it. Saving all the anger, all the humiliation, all the broken trust for the right moment. Emily found me in the garage later that night, just staring at the poster board I'd made, the dead flowers still taped to it. "Daniel," she whispered, "he's never going to stop, is he?" I looked at her, at the woman who was finally starting to realize how deep the damage ran. "No," I said quietly, "not until I make him." That's when I decided the revenge wasn't over. The cookout had exposed him to the family, but now it was time to strip away whatever pride he had left in the rest of his world. Mark wanted war? Fine. I was about to end it. Mark thought he'd rattled me with the keyed truck. He thought late-night knocks and creepy texts would keep me chasing my tail. What he didn't realize was that I'd already stopped playing defense. I started digging. Mark works construction, but not in the steady, respectable way. He jumps between crews, burns bridges, and brags about connections he doesn't actually have. What he does have is a habit of drinking on site, cutting corners, and leaving jobs half-finished. I knew this because he used to come over half-drunk, laughing about how nobody notices a beam half an inch off. So I made sure people noticed. I gathered every story he'd told me, every photo he'd accidentally texted me from a site, every Facebook post where he tagged his crew while chugging beers on the clock. Then I compiled it, dates, times, screenshots, and sent the whole package to his boss. I didn't hide my name. I wanted him to know exactly who pulled the trigger. 2 days later, I watched from my porch as Mark stormed into his driveway, throwing his hard hat across the lawn. Fired. Just like that. But I wasn't done. Remember those creepy flowers? I boxed up every withered stem I'd saved and mailed them to his ex-wife, along with a note. "This is what your kid's father does in his free time." She already hated him, but this? This gave her ammunition. Within a week, she filed to restrict his visitation until he could prove he was mentally stable. Mark exploded. He came pounding on my door one night, screaming so loud the whole street lit up with porch lights. Emily stood behind me, trembling, while he bellowed, "You ruined my life." His fists slammed the door so hard the frame shook. I didn't yell back. I just opened the door, calm as stone, and said, "No, Mark, you ruined it the second you came after my wife. All I did was show everyone the truth." For a moment, he just stared at me, chest heaving, eyes wild. Then something broke in him. He let out this strangled sound, half scream, half sob, and stumbled back into the night. That was the last time he came to my door. Since then, words spread fast. Family won't answer his calls. Old friends cut him off. Even the neighbors who used to invite him for beers cross the street when they see him coming. He's become exactly what he feared most. A pariah. Emily and I, we're still shaky. Trust doesn't bounce back just because the threat's gone. But when she looks at me now, it's different. There's no shadow of him in her eyes. Just guilt, and maybe, slowly, hope. Sometimes I catch myself staring at those old photos, wondering how my own brother turned into the man who tried to burn my marriage down. But then I remember the cookout, the keyed truck, the screaming at my door. And I know, it wasn't me who lost a brother. It was him who lost everything, and he'll never send another flower without choking on the thorns.